This is the mid-module review for Module 4. Question 1, the directions were to multiply or divide, but to draw a model to explain your thinking. So for each one, there must be a picture. So for this first one, I'm going to use my chips. I'm going to draw 8 chips because that's my hole right here. And I see that I want to split it into 2 groups. So if I do 8 divided by 2, I know that is 4. So there's 4 in each group, so I split it. I know that I only want one group, so I'm going to shade in one of the groups, and then I get an answer of 4. And there's a picture to represent it. Letter B is a little different. Because letter B does not go in evenly when I divide 9 into 2 groups, I have to figure out another way. So I'm going to use a tape diagram. And in my tape diagram, this whole thing represents 9. And I want to split it into 2 groups. Same way. And we learned that when we do 9 divided by 2, that's the same thing as saying 9 halves. So each one of these is worth 9 halves. And this is worth 9 halves. But I only want to know about one of them. So this is equal to 9 halves. And when I simplify 9 halves out, I get 4 and 1/2. That's letters A and B. Now C and D, very similar. I can't do 14 divided by 4 evenly because that would be 14/4. So I'm going to draw my tape diagram again. This whole thing represents 14. It's split into 4 groups, and each piece is 14/4, so I'm going to label that. And I want to know about 3 of the pieces. So when I add up these 3 pieces and I do 14/4 plus 14/4 plus 14/4, I get 42/4. And that means 42 divided by 4. And when I do that, I get 10 2/4, which is the same thing as 10 1/2. So my answer for this would be 10 1/2. Now looking over here, this time 30 divided by 5 would go in evenly. It's 6. So I can do it 2 ways. I can do my chips, but 30 is a lot of chips to draw. Or I can draw my tape diagram, which shows that this is worth 30. And I want 5 groups. And each one of those groups is 6. And I want 3 groups, which would be these 3 groups, which is 18. So my answer is 18. Next, this time we're converting in some measurements, so I need to pay attention. This is feet, this is inches. I know that there are 12 inches equals 1 foot. And since I have 2 feet, I know that's 24 inches. So now I'm trying to find 1/4 of 24. I can do that again with my chips, or I can just use a simple tape diagram. So here's my 24. It's split into 4 groups, which means that there's 6 in each group. And I get that because 24 divided by 4 equals 6. And I want to know about one group. So one group is right here. So my answer is 1/4 of 2 feet is 6 inches. Now on the other side over here, we're talking about yards and feet. And I need to know that 3 feet equals 1 yard. So we have 6 yards. Since I have 6 yards, that's 18 feet. So I can write that there to help me. And same thing, I can draw a tape diagram, or I can set myself up using chips. So I'm going to use a tape diagram because that's easier. This whole thing is 18. I'm going to split it into 3 groups. So 18 divided by 3 equals 6. So each of these is 6. and I want to know about two of the groups because that's the numerator. So the answer to that is 12. So that's the first page of your mid-module review. On the back page, we have G and H, and on these two, I will not require a picture. So first, I have to use my order of operations, and I have to remember B PEMDAS here. So I have to do what's in parentheses first, and 5 minus 1/2 is 4.5 times 9. To make this easier for me to solve the way that we know how to solve it, I'm going to turn this into an improper fraction, which would be 9/2 times 9. And we know that when we have a whole number, all we need to do is put it over 1, and then that means the same thing, and I can multiply now straight across. 9 times 9 is 81, and 2 times 1 is 2. And then when I simplify that, 81 divided by 2, I get 40 and 1/2. Now looking at letter H, when I look at letter H, once again, I need to turn this number into an improper fraction, which would be 15/4 times 12. And we know that that whole number is over 1, and we would have to then do 15 times 12. I'm going to look at this an easier way this time and do 12 divided by 4. That's these two numbers, which equals 3. And take that quotient and multiply it times my numerator, which is easier to multiply, and I get 45. And there's my answer of 45. The next question talks about if the whole bar, it should say, is 5 units long. So get rid of that. What is the length of the shaded part of the bar? Write a multiplication equation for the diagram and then solve it. Well, I have this bar and it's split up into 5 pieces, and I want to know about 1, 2, 3 of them. So I want to find 3/5 of the whole bar, and the whole bar is worth 5, so I'm finding 3/5 of 5. That's my multiplication sentence there in this case. So if I want to find 3/5 of 5, looking at what this diagram is that we have here, the answer then becomes 3/5. If I go back to my original number, and I have 15 up here, and I make this 15, then each of these in here is worth 3, because it's split into 5 pieces. And I can be finding 3/5 of 15, and in that case, 3/5 of 15, if I add up these 3, I see that my answer would be 9. So those are both ways, depending on which way you solved it, depending on if you looked at the number line or the words. Next question says circle the expressions that are equal to 4/5 times 7. Explain why the others are not equal using words, pictures, or numbers. So if I solve each, that's using my words and my numbers. But we have to remember it's an expression, so I cannot have any equal signs. So this here is worth 28/5, and 28/5 is also worth 5 3/5. I'm going to go through these. So this is 4 times 7 divided by 5. That's what that means. And that would be 28/5, which is the same as what's up above. So I would circle this one. Then I go to the next one, and this states 4 divided by 20, which is the same thing as saying 4/20 or 1/5. That's not correct. So I'm going to cross it off, but make it so I can still see the work. This one right here is 28 divided by 5, and 28 divided by 5 is the same thing as 28 divided by 5, which matches my answer up above, so I'd circle that. And then this one right here is also 28 over 5, which matches my answer up above, so I would circle that. And that's how I solve question 3. Question 4 just says to write the following as an expression. It doesn't tell me to solve them, they just want me to write the words into an expression. So I have 1/4 the sum, which tells me to multiply, 1/4 of the, and it wants the sum, so I have to find the sum of something, and the sum I want to find is 4 and 6. Next is 6 times the quotient. So 6 times the quotient tells me to divide of 5 divided by 7. And the last one in this section is 3/4, the difference. So the difference tells me to subtract 1/2 minus 1/4. And that's how I write the expressions from words. Next is our line plot. And when I look at our line plot, first thing I'm going to do when I go through is I'm going to read what it says. And Mrs. Flynn makes maple syrup from trees on her property. She used 10 buckets to collect sap from her trees. The line plot shows the amount of sap collected in each bucket in quarts. Write an expression. So we do have to write an expression that includes multiplication to show the total amount collected in quarts, and then solve. So we're going to look, and we have our 10 x's, which is our 10 buckets. And we have to realize that between 0 and 1 there are 4 spaces. So that means that each line is a quarter, 1/4. So we have 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. I have 3 x's above 3/4. So I have 3 times 3/4. I also now have this is at 1 and 1/4. So I'm going to add that to 1 and 1/4. And then I'm going to add that to this, which is right above the 2. So there are 2 x's on 2. I have to do that twice. And then I'm going to add that to 3 and 2/4. And I have 4 of those. So I'm going to do 5 times 3 and 2/4. So now I do have some multiplication in there. This is an expression. And now I need to solve it. So I'm going to scroll up. First thing I'm going to do is I see that I have some mixed numbers in there. So I'm going to rewrite this so everything is an improper fraction that's mixed to make it easier to work with. So 1 and 1/4 became 5/4. And then this stays 2 times 2. And then this becomes 4 times 14/4 over here, because I have 4 times 3 is 12 plus 2 is 14. So now everything's easier to work with. And now I'm going to simplify down. This becomes 9/4 plus 5/4 plus 4 plus 4 times 14 is 56/4. So now I'm going to add up all my fourths, but leave that whole number that's there, and I'll deal with that after. So I have 14/4 plus the whole number of 4 plus 56/4. Now I'm going to add the other 2/4 together. When I add the other 2/4 together, I get 70/4 plus 4. And now I'm going to turn 70/4 into a mixed number. And when I do that, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, I'm going to do this on the side right here to show you. So I have 17 and 2/4. So now this is 17 and 2/4 plus 4. So in this case now I can just add my whole numbers together. And when I add my whole numbers together, I get 21 and 2/4. And I want to simplify that to 21 and 1/2. And it should be quarts because that's what she was working with. And that, if you notice, I never have an equal sign anywhere in there. Now the last question is about Miss Williams using the following recipe for her crispy rice treats. She wants to make 3/4 of the recipe. So that means each thing in here I only want 3/4 of because I'm not making a whole recipe. And it says how much of each ingredient will she need? Write an expression that includes multiplication and solve by multiplying. So I want 3/4 of 4 cups. I'm also going to get 3/4 of the 36 ounces and 3/4 of the 18 cups. So now I'm going to not solve. It shouldn't say it said by solve. I'm going to simplify because it's an expression. And over here, 3/4 of 4 cups is 3 cups. And that's the butter in case we need to know. And 3/4 of 36 ounces is 27 ounces, and we're talking about the marshmallows. And 3/4 of the 18 cups, we're talking about 54 fourths, which we will then turn into a mixed number. When you turn 54 fourths into a mixed number, you get 13 2/4, which is 13.5 cups of cereal. So that's 3/4 of the recipe. Then it says, how many ounces, fluid ounces of butter will she use? And then use your measurement conversion chart. Well, what we're going to do here is I am going to tell you that there are 8 fluid ounces in a cup. Now, knowing that there's 8 fluid ounces in 1 cup, we know that we have 3 cups. So then we're going to do 8 times 3, and we know we have 24 fluid ounces. The last question says, when the Crispy Rice treats have cooled, Miss Williams cuts them into 40 equal pieces. She gives 2/5 to her son and takes the rest to school. How many treats will she take to school? Well, if I have 2/5 she gives to him, what's left she takes to school, so there's 3/5 left. And we're finding 3/5 of 40. And when we do 3/5 of 40, we have 24. Sorry, that's a little sloppy. 24 pieces. And that is your mid-module review.